landscape, David Stein is going to share with us a slideshow and speak about his experience traveling around India and the world. It was really fun. He told us that he had to step down from the board so he could go on this trip. And we were like, oh, you just need a sabbatical. You can come back. You don't have to step down. And it was fun because he didn't. And then when he came back to town, we got to all play again. And now we have this beautiful influx of relationships that David made in his journey around the world. So I'd say 3 or 4, at least, of our presenters, our keynote on Sunday, and a couple other people are all these wonderful friends that we were able to make vicariously through David and his little globetrot. So he can unmute and speak up. He's in the room.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Cool.
Yes, and I've also made you a presenter, so you can go ahead and share your screen as needed.
Okay, excellent. Well, thank you, Shaylee. Thank you, David. Tough act to follow. No, just kidding. That was a wonderful presentation, a lot to take in and a lot to digest. So thank you for sharing a lot of that wonderful knowledge. And so I'm really excited to be here with you all tonight and talk about an amazing opportunity I had to go travel. And I feel really privileged and blessed to have been able to finally do something that has been very important to me for many years, and that was to go to India. So I'll try to give a brief introduction of how this all came to be. I attended college at Fairhaven in Bellingham, Washington. So I heard some other people earlier are from Bellingham. That seems to be a nice hub for fellow Permies. And while there, I studied ethnobotany and sustainable agriculture. And I met a lot of great people in Bellingham that are also interested in permaculture. In fact, a few of those people will be involved in the schedule and presenting this weekend. Brian from Inspiration Farm, Terry Kempton, who was a previous professor of mine, and Paul Kearsley, I believe, has a video that will be shown later on in the weekend. So definitely look out for those presentations. So while I was in school, I got involved with a 5-acre farm, the Outback Farm, which is located right on the university's campus. And that became arguably my greatest teacher of all while I was in college. I spent a lot of time at this farm. And as I was observing the plants grow on the farm, I was observing my interests in sustainable agriculture and connecting with the earth simultaneously grow as well. So this, I think a lot of the people here can relate to this. When you're involved in this type of work, you start to open these deeper connections to the earth, and it becomes more than a hobby, a job. It becomes a lifestyle and state of mind. And it was during this time of awakening that I also discovered permaculture and the permaculture convergence. And it seemed like a very fitting time to be introduced to this design method and these ideologies that go hand in hand with practices that promote harmony, regenerative farming, and all these wonderful attributes we want to see moving forward with our food systems and social systems. So after a couple convergences, I decided to join the board, and that has been an amazing experience, learning how a bunch of Permies try to organize such a big event each year, and I'm thankful for that. And when I finally graduated college, I realized I was at a point in my life. Well, after that, I worked for 1 year for the Washington Conservation Corps and did salmon restoration work and got to plant a lot of trees, and that was great. But that job was a set term. And when the end of that term came, I decided this was the time I was finally going to travel to India, because it had been something I had wanted to do, I think, from the time I was 13 years old. So I was manifesting that reality over many years. And I had always dreamed about traveling abroad in a way that was more than just showing up to the popular tourist sites and staying in nice hotels and kind of that theme, but rather a way that you really connect with the people, you work with the people of the land, you connect with the land itself. And I realized permaculture, that theme, goes directly with all the activities I wanted to be doing in India. So what that led me to do was discover this amazing website called Workaway. I'm not trying to plug this website or anything, but it's this website that allows hosts or different people to post what they're doing in their personal lives, whether it's farming, schools. They have a variety of things other than just agriculture. But I was using that website as a medium to find farms that would practice regenerative farming. Some of them would actually mention permaculture in their description. But the deal was I would contact them and they'd get back to me and they'd say, okay, if you come to my farm and volunteer for 5 hours a day, I will provide room, board, food, and of course that cultural exchange and that experience of living on that farm and integrating into that system. So that was a dream come true because that was the main theme I wanted to go with while traveling. So it didn't take long before I started mapping out all these different farms throughout India that I wanted to visit. And there were a lot of hosts. I mean, it became apparent that if I wanted to travel indefinitely, I could just keep going from farm to farm while also not having to spend a whole lot of money. So it just seemed like a wonderful exchange. I know it worried my mom a bit because she thought I may never come home from India. But so I found some amazing farms, and that's what I'm going to talk about tonight. In fact, a lot of the farms or not a lot of them, all of them will be future presenters that will be presenting later on the schedule. As mentioned earlier, one of our keynotes this year is Prem Singh, and I will be talking about his farm mainly during this presentation. So I'm going to share my screen, and can everyone see this image? Yep.
Yes,
Okay.
good.
Got a thumbs up from Shaylee. Oops, getting ahead. Okay. Hopefully the audio works while I'm sharing the screen, but we'll worry about that when we get to that point. So the first place I want to talk about on my trip is a farm I visited in Banda, India. So Banda is located in the state of Uttar Pradesh. And this pin right here, the big red pin, is where Banda is. And I read about this really cool opportunity where Prem Singh wrote his description of his farm and said he's a farming school that is spreading regenerative farming methods to people around him, and he's practicing it on a 6-acre farm. So I was like, okay, cool. That sounds like a great experience. So I reached out to him. He said, yes, please come visit. We'd love to host you. And after one train from New Delhi to Lucknow, and then from Lucknow to Banda on a small bus, I finally got to this little village, and I show up at the bus station and a guy pulls up on a motorcycle and is basically like, hop on. I'm like, wait, what's going on? So I call up Prem and he's like, yes, just get on the back of the motorcycle. It's fine. And I'm like, okay, glad I have a backpack and not a big suitcase. And away we went off to a little bit outside the village. And when I arrived to Prem's farm, I was immediately met with such a sense of peace and a calm sense. And prior to this, I had been in New Delhi and Lucknow, and the streets of these big cities in India are crazy. You know, that people are constantly on the horns. There's so much going on. It's very stimulating, and it's so much to take in that it can be almost overwhelming. And I needed moments to kind of retract and calm down. So showing up to a farm where you could hear the birds singing, it was exactly what I was looking for. So I was really happy to get there. And here's a little group photo here. Let me get rid of this. You guys don't need to be looking at that. Or all of you, I should say. Okay, so this photo cracks me up. I told them, okay, do we want to take a group photo? And they all were very excited. They're like, oh yeah. And then I look back at this photo and half of them are like making faces where they don't seem too happy. So it just always makes me laugh. But here's a group photo of a lot of the people I was getting to connect with while on the farm. As you can see in the background, here's the main sign for the Humane Agrarian Center. And this is what Prem calls his farm and learning school. And here's another photo of Prem. And Prem was such an amazing person to work with and connect with. Lots of love in his heart. And to give a little background knowledge on Prem, I'll give you a little tidbit sneak preview, because Prem is going to give a whole presentation on the things he's doing. So it will be a brief overview. But Prem started farming in 1987. And when he started farming, he used conventional methods, industrial agriculture, chemicals, the whole 9 yards. And with one of the first principles of permaculture, observe and interact, he witnessed in the first few years of his farm The land was not responding well. He had crops failing, and he was struggling just to survive as a farm. So he was not doing well financially, and he was questioning his decision to go into farming. And in India, similar to the US, I would say, farming is not necessarily considered to be a job revered. You know, it's not like a doctor or lawyer. And in Prem's heart, he really wanted to go into farming to show that farming doesn't have to be this idea of, you know, like hard, well, it's always going to be hard work, but this, he thinks farmers should be highly revered in society. And I would completely agree with this philosophy and mindset. And he wanted to create an environment that demonstrated through healthy practices with the land, you can be financially successful, while many farmers in India are not right now. And this is a huge problem in India. In the last 2 decades, hundreds of thousands of farmers in India have committed suicide due to the pressures and all the tribulations they're currently facing while trying to farm in a third world country. A lot of them are pressured into these subsidies from the government that promote them to use pesticides, artificial fertilizers, and all those types of things. So he realized this was extremely problematic, and he was watching his land become destroyed from this. So he realized something had to change, and he decided he was going to embrace having this mindset of coexistence with the land. He realized, I'm fighting against the land. I needed to be working with it to see the type of change I want to achieve. So this is exactly what he did. And in the process, he's created an amazing property. When he first moved there, he planted tons, hundreds of mango trees. So in this quick video, these are mango trees you see in the background. And these mango trees are now, I'll just play it one more time. The video is kind of fast, so I apologize for that. But these mango trees are approximately 30 years old. So this is his main crop on his farm. I'd say he has his mango trees planted in zones kind of 3, 4, 5 for using permaculture terms. So kind of on the outskirts of his land. And each year they bring all their mangoes to market, and they also pickle a lot of their harvest to sell pickled mangoes, because this is a very common side dish in India. And he produces a lot of his revenue from his mangoes, without a doubt. So that video, I'm going to go back for a second. I want to talk about permaculture principles I observed on his farm. So in this video, you can see a big pond in the background. This was one of the big things he first did on his farm, is create a large storage for water. He also has solar panels, which can assist in irrigation later on in the year. India is very reliant on their monsoon seasons to collect a lot of water, so they get an insane amount of water all at once, and then they go into extended periods of drought. So it's very important for farmers to design methods that allow them to store their water for later on use. Another cool permaculture, yes? Can you hear me?
I have a request for expanding the video to full,
Sure,
screen.
do that again.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. So that is one aspect of permaculture I was witnessing on the farm. Of course, another permaculture principle is obtain a yield, and that goes into the mangoes being that main yield. But of course, he is also farming lots of different vegetables and fruits on his farm to provide sustenance to all those who work on the farm and for himself. So they do eat a lot of the food, or a lot of the food consumed by those on the farm is produced on the farm, which I always think that's beautiful to see that system in place. Another permaculture principle I was observing was minimal waste on the farm. So like any good farm, compost is essential. So it was great to see compost methods that I think many of us have witnessed in other permaculture design courses. Very simple strategy of just using fencing material to create a circle, 3 to 4 foot diameter, and then stacking that with layers of organic material and having that balanced carbon to nitrogen ratio. So they're using a lot of the manure from their cows on the farm in their compost piles, and of course, all other organic waste. Let's see. Another thing I want to talk about while we're on the subject
Are
of
those walnuts
walnuts,
on the ground?
they might be amlas. So that's a very common fruit, amla. And
Almond? Ooh.
yes, and it falls to the ground and they dry it out. They lay it out in the sun. And then after it dries out, they crush it into a powder and they use it medicinally. And this also goes with the theme of minimal waste on the farm. So even things that are not harvested at the spot, even when they drop to the ground, they come back for a lot of those fruits and they convert them into a medicine that keeps them healthy and able to continue to run the farm. Another cool thing used on the farm is cow urine. So they actually take cow urine and they ferment it and they add neem leaves to the cow urine. And by fermenting this concoction, they are creating a fertilizer and pesticide. So let's see if you can hear the audio in this video. Gonna see if this works. Okay. Here in audio, let's see, maybe I can turn this up. That will help.
David Stein, what you need to do in order to get audio is whenever you go to share your screen, as soon as you click share, there's a little checkbox that you need to check.
Got it. Okay.
You kind of have to unshare. And
so are you guys able to hear this? Let's see if I can get a guess.
Looking nice. Ooh, what do we got going on here?
Is audio a go?
Yes, it's good to go.
Okay. Okay.
How's it going, Jeet?
Yes. Hello.
This is Jeet the farmer. So what are we doing here? Are you fertilizing?
Yes. This time some organic medicines spray.
Okay.
This time insect time.
Oh, it's for insects?
For saving insects.
Mm.
This is organic.
Organic insecticide.
Yes.
So what's it made out of?
Cow urine.
Cow urine?
And many leaves of plants.
Ah,
To make
leaves
this-
of different plants? Okay.
Okay.
Very cool. That's why it has that nice aroma, huh?
Yes.
Okay. Well, excellent. Well, I'm going to go take a look at the mango trees. Okay, we'll see you soon. Okay. So that's my friend Jeet. We've become good friends while I've been here. And we say we're going to visit each other one day when we're both old farmers. So I look forward to that. So we're entering the more back part of the property. And this is where the mango orchard is. So as I'm walking, you may see these trees around me. These are all mango trees. Like I said, they're almost 30 years old. They're pretty beautiful, really. I think they're really nice looking trees. They're canopies and whatnot. And then another cool thing going on here is that they have turmeric plants underneath the mango trees. So I think turmeric plants benefit from having a little shade. So they're really stacking that function by using the canopy of the mango trees to optimize a growing environment below for the turmeric. So rather than just having a field of mango trees, now they have a field of mango trees and turmeric. And then they're able to take that turmeric and convert it into a powder and then use that powder for their own cooking or sell it at the market. So it just becomes one more good that they're able to bring to the market and sell.
Okay, so that was a quick little video. And just going in a little more on the topic of that natural pesticide being used, really interesting to learn more about that. So apparently the neem leaves, as mentioned earlier by Shaylee, neem leaves are a wonderful natural pesticide. They contain a constituent called azadirachtin, I believe that's how you pronounce it. And this compound, from what I've read, acts as an anti-fedant, repellent, and repugnant agent. So how it interacts with the insects to act as a natural insecticide, it induces sterility in the insects, and it prevents the female insects from laying eggs, and it disrupts the male sperm within the male insects. So it cuts off that reproduction, and it can really help take care of pest pressures. And the urine, once fermented, well, before fermentation, it still has these minerals, but it becomes more safe to use in this application method. The cow urine contains sulfur, potassium, zinc, iron, copper, all these wonderful minerals that our plants need to thrive. And when you mix the neem leaves with the urine and you ferment everything, the urine acts as that carrier to help also spread those constituents found in the neem leaves. So it really ties back into that idea of minimizing waste. I mean, it's incredible to think something like cow urine is now being used in such a productive way on your farm and landscape. And it just makes me think there's so many of these opportunities around us that we're just not even fully aware of or thinking about, but it definitely inspires me to, I suppose, slow down and try to examine all these wonderful resources around us. So we were always busy on the farm. Even when sitting around, people were always working. I was always amazed by the work ethic, the craftsmanship. So many times we didn't have the perfect tool for the job. You know, I was experiencing for the first time being in an environment where it doesn't matter if you have the money or not. You may not simply have that store to go down the block or whatever and buy that tool you need to make the job way easier. But nonetheless, the way the people worked over there was incredible. They were so fluid in how they were able to continue to build with the most minimal tools. And it really inspired me and opened my eyes where resources only play such a level in the productivity. It really comes down to our resourcefulness and our intention and design methods, which definitely ties back into this big overarching idea of permaculture. Okay, so I'm going to move on to, here's a little background video. No need for a sound. Let me see if I can mute that. You don't need to hear splitting wood. This was kind of a fun activity where I was getting to work alongside someone. And that was another thing I loved about these experiences, is that I found myself working in these environments with others who may not speak a single word of English. And I certainly did not speak Hindi. And most of the time they didn't speak Hindi either, because although that's India's national language, there's dialects everywhere you go. But nonetheless, I found when you're working alongside someone, it doesn't matter. You bridge all these cultural gaps, the language barriers, all these things, and you become united with the task you're working on, which is why I believe permaculture, community gardens, all these things we're interested in can certainly change the world. So I now want to, with the time I have left, talk about another destination I was able to visit in Mandingad. It's kind of near Mumbai. It's in the state of Maharashtra. And during this time, I was able to visit a little homestead called Sapna Ranch. Here's just a nice view of a location on the ranch. And I was able to connect with a great guy named Hasmukh. And Hasmukh will also be presenting later this weekend. So I definitely recommend tuning in for his presentation, because he is working on some awesome things with intentional communities, permaculture practices on his landscape, and lots of great things there. So some of the things going on around his place that involved permaculture principles were some rocket stoves. It was great to see rocket stoves in action. For those of you that are not familiar with rocket stoves, check them out. As a brief description of what they accomplish, they essentially are a way to burn fuels in the most efficient way possible. So in a traditional fire with a stack and chimney, so much of that fuel is just going up into the atmosphere and not completely burning off. But the rocket stove fully combusts. It's estimated to like 80-90% of those particles are combusted through a rocket stove model, so you're not removing a lot of that waste. The main purpose of these on the farm were to cook the animals' food. That became my task for the week I was visiting this permaculture homestead. The kittens always seemed to like me when it was time for food. So they'd always come through, and there'd be all these random cats that would just show up because they'd hear the metal bowls getting ready and all that good stuff. Some other things I was able to witness around the farm is some really resourceful methods of building furniture and taking waste and turning it into something that is helpful in the space. So it kind of goes back to that permaculture idea that the problem is the solution. So instead of saying, hey, we have all these tires around that are used and, you know, what are we going to do with them? We can't just take them to a dump. They made furniture out of them, and they were able to, you know, use some webbing and string and cut holes. And I just thought that was really cool, and it made me excited, and I thought you all might appreciate it too. And moving on. So I have a few minutes left. It was short and it was sweet, but I want to tell a little story to end my talk. At some point in India, I got to visit the state of Rajasthan. And it's a really amazing state in India. I mean, everywhere was amazing. The state is so colorful, vibrant desert communities. It's the northwest corner of India. Well, not super north because you have Himachal Pradesh. And anyways, if you're interested in the geography, I'm sure you can look it up on a map. But in Jaisalmer, which is the village I was in, I was volunteering for a week with this place that leads tours and whatnot. And I was finding myself sitting at the market for that week. And I'd be sitting outside on the steps. And for that whole week, I'd be looking across the street at this dilapidated building. And the whole time I was like, man, what happened there? Like that must have a story because, I mean, look at it. It's not looking too good. Well, I had the fortune of talking to a gentleman who was also sitting next to me on the other set of steps in the market for most of the week. And he told me a little story. And I just want to share it with you all that this used to be a really popular restaurant in the town of Jaisalmer. It's on a corner right here, busy market road, lots of activity going on. And this restaurant used to be attended by locals, travelers, all kinds of people. And when the restaurant owner died, he passed down the restaurant to his two sons. And it was now time for the two brothers to run the restaurant they had inherited from their father. But these brothers were not able to work in harmony with one another. It was in need of repairs, and they could not decide on how they should go about doing the repairs or what direction they should move forward. And this contention resulted in this. Their father's restaurants lays in ruins because of the lack of coexistence and harmony in their decision making. And I heard this little story, and I was like, wow, what a metaphor. Like that really, there was so much to unpack from that story. And it made me think about the fact that, you know, we are constantly attempting to live in harmony with ourselves, others, and nature. And I believe by embracing this coexistence and this harmony in life, we can achieve great mindfulness and compassion. And I think by doing that, you know, we can all be a part of building a future that promotes equality and love for all. And I think this weekend is all about that. And we can share this knowledge, we can connect, and hopefully we can do great things as a result and grow some delicious strawberries and enjoy them together. So that's, I think that's time. So I'm happy to take any questions.
He's eating a strawberry. Thank you, David. That was amazing.
I see a question. What were they pounding? Yes, so they were splitting firewood. Prem had a friend weld just a metal edge blade on that structure where you just put the logs on top and then you just pound away with big sledgehammers they made from wood from the farm, mango wood, and they made the handles. And I think at one point, one of the mauls actually broke, but hey, within 10 minutes, it was repaired and we were back at it again.
That's awesome. Yeah, if there's any questions, you could actually unmute yourself and then we'll call on you. That should be you can actually do it vocally or you can do it in the message stream below, whatever you'd prefer.
Okay, so there's a question. How do they collect the cow urine? That is a very, very good question. A question I can't say I was involved in. So I was actually wondering that myself. I was like, how do they collect the cow urine? I'm not sure, but they managed to collect it. I mean, the fact is, maybe they just put a bucket underneath the cow. Cows are constantly peeing. I don't know if someone has experience in collecting cow urine here. Maybe they can speak up on this, but I don't.
I can answer that question. Culturally in India, so you'd either have someone it's pretty obvious when a cow's peeing.
Yes.
I had cows myself, so you can kind of they use someone. Another thing is a lot of times in India, especially in sustainable agriculture, they put a lot of the animals in a very small confinement area. And so they're actually able to kind of funnel that, and they're not chasing the cow around a field. They're actually facilitating a smaller space. And it's actually a really harmonious place for the cow. It's not in its natural environment, but also it's really hard to create a natural environment for a cow there. It's kind of like the second best thing. And they actually hand feed the cows a lot, like literally just like bring them the best food and feed them. And that's that practice in India, is more of a giving the cow a nice space or the goat a nice space, and then collecting its poo and its urine very easily in that scenario.
Yeah, and we got some comments that are definitely making good points, such as, putting a bucket under the cow when they're in the paddock when they're feeding them, because they're most likely going to pee while they're in that confined space. And then also, it was mentioned in the comments that they create channels in the floor, and this naturally diverts the pee to certain locations. So thank you for sharing that information, Joshua and Deepika. So, but yeah, it was a wonderful opportunity. I feel very privileged that I had the ability to do this adventure, and I would have stayed longer, but as we all know, circumstances have changed in the world, so I had to hightail it home on a plane before I was stuck there. But sometimes I wonder, maybe it wouldn't have been so bad to be stuck in a rural farm in India while we ride this wave out. So I hope to return someday, and I loved my time there. I'm very thankful to everyone I met there.
That's awesome. Thank you, David. That was really amazing. We are open for questions. Another thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to throw a poll up, and this poll is going to ask two questions. Where are you currently at? And the second one is, where did you hear about this event? It'd be awesome to get people's feedback. And then I think the feedback will be shared live, would be my theory, as soon as all the data comes.